requirement movie. I'm using Camtasia Studio to bring this to you, and we'll show you a little bit more about this later on in the semester. As far as the paper goes, the purpose is to delve deeper into a topic of interest related to educational technology. And that is from the position of wanting to know more about any particular topic and going into it a little bit deeper. It should be something that is of interest to you, something that you want to learn more about, and that you may want to experience yourself. As you know, this class here is a broad survey of many different topics in educational technology, and this paper serves to allow you to dig deeper into any one particular subject that interests you. And that's really the focus of this particular paper. The paper can take two different forms. You can either be a literature review or it can be action research. Generally speaking, the standard collegiate paper is your literature review, using existing research, trade publications, and other reliable sources of research conducted and forming your own conclusions based on what you've read from those sources. Action research is a little bit different. It involves you conducting actual research through case studies, surveys, observations, and even text analysis. Could be a particular way in which you could approach this. And then reporting those findings out and making conclusions based on what you've learned from your actual research. So that is the second. I'll talk a little bit more in depth about these two. With regard to the literature review, it's a standard research paper. So really, using scholarly sources, you can use trade publications and some other sources. It should be about 5 pages long. If it's a little bit less, but you've said what you had to say, that's fine. If it's a little bit more, that's fine too. In terms of your sources, I'd prefer that you cite them with either MLA or APA format. Both of those are pretty standard formats, and you should have some familiarity with them. We're actually going to show you how to do those using the reference tools in Word as well. As far as margins, font, and formatting issues, I don't freak about these sorts of things, but I do have some basic guidelines. Obviously, stay with your standards. Half-inch, inch margins, either one's fine with me. I don't care. Single space, double space, I don't care. Triple spacing and more than that, probably not a good idea. But single spaced or double spaced is absolutely fine. In terms of the fonts, 10 point, 11 point, 12 point, those are your standard font sizes. Anything more or less than that would not be appropriate. And use your standard fonts, whether they be sans or sans serif, like Times New Roman, Courier, Arial, any of those standard fonts. Try to stay away from those esoteric Old English fantasy type fonts. We don't need those. And then, of course, we have how do you want to submit this? You can give it to me in hand, but I would prefer it via email or Dropbox. That way, I not only can read it myself, but I can also have the computer read it as I'm reading it, and I can get a better sense of the paper. So that's one of the things that I do with that. For those type A's in the room, if you got to have that due date, the due date for this particular paper is 6/20/2013, which you will notice is the week that I'm away. It's the second class, and the revised syllabus shows you that we'll have an online class. That is the deadline. The 18th, which is the Tuesday before, is a research day, so you can try to put this thing to bed on that day if you want to. If you can't meet that deadline, if things happen, life happens, certainly just see me and we'll work it out. All right, so those are the parameters for the literature review. Action research is a little more involved. There's really two phases to it. The first is designing your research. What methodology are you going to use? You're going to do a case study, an observation, survey, etc. You must decide which one you're going to do. Identify your research subjects, whether they're people, software, hardware, policies, any of those things can be researched. And then implement that study. Do the research. Interview the people, conduct the survey, do the case studies, whatever it needs to be. The paper should have some distinct sections to it, including an introduction, where you talk about why you're doing this particular action research, and then the methodology, how you're approaching it. What did you learn from doing this? What were the findings? This is where we might see graphs and charts and things of that nature. And then finally, the conclusions. What did you learn from the research that you did? And those are the distinct parts of this particular paper. In terms of the written paper parameters, again, the same standards apply to this as did the literature review. Around 5 pages. If it takes a little more, it takes a little less, that's fine. Cite your sources in MLA and APA format. Margins, fonts, and formatting issues are the same as well. 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Font 10, 11, or 12. Standard fonts should apply. Again, submit this paper via the email or the Dropbox, and the due date is the same. So all of the standards are the same for the actual paper itself. The methodology and stuff is a little bit different with the action research. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call or stop by and talk to me. All right? Thank you.